Greetings and welcome to the latest episode, live stream version of the Rice Crypto Show. Appreciate everybody for taking the time to tune in. We are live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Today we have a Bitcoin ETF Roundtable, and I am joined by two friends in the space, people that I respect very much. I am joined by K-Dub from Crypto Zombie and British HODL from British HODL. I still don't know your name, dude. We're going to get things started. Make sure you take an opportunity to smash that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. All right, and before we begin, as always, a few quick messages from the sponsors of Rice TVX to make it possible for me to do this thing for you full-time. Shout out to Monarch. It's a cryptocurrency wallet that you possess, own, and control your private keys and pre-search decentralized search engine with AI that rewards. You can find information in every video description. Don't forget to visit ricetvx.com, where you can watch both of my YouTube channels, Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, directly. Find all of my social media links, sign up for my mailing list, and become a member of Rice Uncensored, where you can join me on the private side for less than $0.25 a day. You will get early access to both Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, ad-free, unedited videos, exclusive content, members-only forum with direct access to me, live streams, and more to come, only at ricetvx.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's 2.5 minutes. I'm about to bring in our guest, but I'm going to tell you a really quick story. I'll tell them before we began this particular live stream. But what I was doing was, one day I was doing some research. I was doing some deep dive stuff throughout the week in regards to BlackRock, and I had been doing a lot of reading on the internet and things to that effect. So I was searching some videos because instead of reading, I was trying to hear what some other people had to say. I came across this guy, British HODL. I really liked what he had to say. Obviously, I did invite him on the show. He is coming back today for his third appearance. But right after I saw a couple of videos of British HODL, a good friend of mine in the crypto space, Mr. K-Dub from the Crypto Zombie YouTube channel. And again, their channels are going to be linked down below in the video description, as well as their X accounts. But he shared some information, a clip from a video from British HODL. And that kind of gave me the confirmation to reach out to British HODL. They've both been on the channel before, and I thought it was long overdue to bring them in together. So without further ado, Mr. K-Dub from Crypto Zombie and British HODL from British HODL. What's going on, guys? K-Dub, I'll let you go first.
Oh, not too much, man. Getting pretty excited about everything tomorrow. You know, trying not to overhype it, but obviously it is pretty exciting times regardless, you know, the inevitability of what is to come. And, you know, obviously British HODL, I found him almost the same way you did, kind of. We were, a random video popped up of his on my X account. And I had been talking about the ETFs, but I felt like I could never really put it into the proper words. I didn't have the, you know, the terminology, you know, and he just absolutely slammed it. And it's crazy to this day. I think it's still the best performing video on my channel in like the past 2 years. So yeah, I'm totally honored to be on here with you, man.
Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation. I appreciate both of you guys making time to do it. British HODL, what's going on with you, my friend? How are you today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me back. And listen, Crypto Zombie, you were the first person to take one of my videos and put it on a big channel. So I truly appreciate that. And I think we
both took a cherry from him. So you were the first channel that shared him one of his clips, the big channel, and then I brought him on for his first interview.
That's right.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. And I've known Kyle K-Dub for quite some time.
My name's Kyle. It's fine. We just, you know, it's actually a funny story how I got that nickname. But I used to be in a band in high school, and kids in high school, they're kind of like jerks to each other, and the rival band, we're better, we're gonna win, whatever. And they started calling me K-Dub, and they started doing it in like a derogatory way, almost like they were trying to like put me down. And so I always said, man, if I ever got like famous or if I ever did anything, like I'm gonna call myself K-Dub just to like spite those dudes. And like now, like if they see me on YouTube, thanks for the nickname, guys. Hope
it's
you're
like
doing well.
you got 3 names, so it's kind of hard to like surface through them because I want to call you Crypto Zombie. I want to call you the new CZ, but anyways,
there you go.
What I want to kind of get from both of you guys, man, because we're on the 9th of January, something else, and I was going to try to find an article for this, but there is something very significant about today. Do you guys know what's significant about today aside from the ETF?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's first block.
Yeah, block 1. So it was 6 days later after the 3rd of January with the Genesis block that we've seen block 1 of the Bitcoin blockchain take place today. Somebody reminded me of that of last night. So I thought it was kind of fitting we're doing this conversation today, where we're less than 48 hours from a potential approval or a potential denial. So I guess, British HODL, what are your what I want to get from both of you before we like get deep into this is your thoughts and what you think is going to happen on a short-term basis and potentially a long-term basis when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF. Do you think it'll get approved?
Yeah, Nick? I think there's a 90% chance that we're getting approved. I don't think the conversation gets as far as it's getting. I mean, just today alone, we've had a refiling of a bunch of S1s in order to basically get this done. ETF, issuers are lowering their fees. The SEC made some comments yesterday. They refiled this morning, like before the market even opened, all the refilings were in. So the conversation doesn't really get this far unless sort of this is a done deal, in my opinion. But I will always lean on the Bloomberg analyst guys, James and Eric, on their analysis, and they're at 90%. So I'm very comfortable with that. I think this is a done deal. I think the question is how long does it take to start trading? And James today was saying we could start trading by Thursday, and that's phenomenal. I wouldn't expect that, but it makes sense. If the SEC wants to prevent manipulation in the market, it's best to approve or close on Wednesday and start trading before open on Thursday.
Yeah, that does make sense. And as I'm screen sharing, I got your X and your YouTube channel pulled up. I'll have those listed down below so people can subscribe if they're not already subscribed to your channel. And I'll be doing the same thing for KDub. What do you think, Zombie? What do you think we're going to get an approval? What are your thoughts about short-term and long-term predictions?
Yeah, I mean, I like, again, I'm not an ETF, specialist or anything like that. I've obviously just been following it closely, learning a lot actually as I've been going through with it. But I mean, to my knowledge, if you just look at everything that's going on, I mean, you even had SEC, the previous SEC chair, Jay Clayton, come out, and he was like, there really isn't anything left to do. Like you said, they're even fixing, dotting, the I's, crossing the T's. It's the most conversation we've ever seen the SEC have, really. I mean, if you look all the way back with the Winklevoss twins, this is something that's been going on for 5 years, basically ignoring everybody up to this point. So to me, I think that the SEC, if I were them, I would approve it because a lot of these judges have already pretty much told them you can't reject on these bases anymore. So either you're going to have to get real creative and come up with something out of left field, or you're going to probably end up back in court having to explain yourself again. And I don't really envision that they're going to want to keep doing that. So I think an approval would make the most logical sense at this point, not being a crystal ball reader, but I mean, it's inevitable either way, whether or not it happens tomorrow. I don't personally care. For me, it doesn't matter, but I know everyone wants that to happen. So I don't really see a reason why it shouldn't. I mean, they approved futures. They're worried about manipulation. I don't really get that. It doesn't make sense. There's going to be less manipulation with the way that they're doing it now. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely not. It's different. They're two totally different animals as far as the ETFs, futures versus spots. Especially with spots, you have to have the underlying asset versus the futures where you don't. So it's just pure speculation, in my opinion. And dude, I want to commend you for not being an ETF expert. I thought about this. I was saying it yesterday on a live stream that I was doing with Crypto Blood. I don't want to be a TradFi expert. It'd be nice to know how some of these things work when it comes to like having a question about some of this stuff and wanting to know, because I want to share a clip and I want both of your guys' thoughts. This is an extra clip that I wasn't even thinking about, but this is something from one of my streams with Crypto Blood, and I shared this in a single video. This is a prediction that he made when it came to the Bitcoin ETF. So it's like a minute long. I'll play it real quick. So you're saying you think that the ETF that on January, if you want to pull back up that graphic, that on January 10th, where we see the final deadline for ARK Invest, you think the Crypto Diamond's prediction is that ARK is going to be denied. They will reapply, and everyone will get approved on or before the 15th of March, which is the deadline for iShares Bitcoin Trust.
Man, it's the deadline.
Did I get it right?
Couldn't say it any better.
Okay.
iShares, Bitwise,
there you have it, friends.
Van Eck, Wisdom Tree, Investco, Wise Origins. Doesn't it make sense to just
everybody from Valkyrie up the list? If you go back on it, Valkyrie up, I think.
Yep.
The other ones, they're later in the game. They'll get accepted, but they won't be in the first. So I don't know why that looks so blurry on my end, but what do you guys think about what Blood said? I know you've met Blood Zombie. Curious.
Oh yeah. And if he's watching right now, I just I love the guy, but that $12,500 call that we did on Debate Crypto, just saying, bud. Do you still think that's gonna happen? I do love the guy, but that was a crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he's calling for those kind of levels.
Yeah, no, I again, Blood, I love you, man, but I was just
think he's
no
calling
way
for a potential 20 to 30%. And he said that before Arthur Hayes came out with his, which is in regards to the repo repurchase program ending March 12th. So I mean, there's a catalyst of things going on, but when I see traditional British HODL, what are your thoughts about what Blood said?
Yeah, I don't know him, so I don't love him yet. And I think he's talking a bunch of bullshit. So I think that there's that. I think he's doing a great job at trying to catalyze some clicks during this ETF approval period. If that was the case, then BlackRock wouldn't have filed its S1s, wouldn't have filed its 19B4s, it wouldn't have filed any other paperwork that they filed. They're not going to drag BlackRock and all of these other ones to here, because remember, they already delayed one last year, right? They already delayed one at the end of last year because of this. So
Grayscale.
Yeah. No. There was another one. I can't remember exactly which one, but I think it was Hashdex. I think they basically said, we're going to push this out. And it was like they pushed it out 3 weeks before the an announcement was due. So I don't know who your friend is, but I think he's good at getting clicks right now from the doom and gloom.
I mean, we're definitely not click guys, and we would have a lot more views than subscribers. But I mean, that was a genuine prediction on his part.
Was it genuine when he predicted 12K Bitcoin as well? Apparently.
I mean, not everybody is correct. You know, a lot of people make bad calls, and a broken clock is always right twice a day. So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing.
I hope tomorrow's not the day.
This is the thing that we're getting at. I mean, either way, I see the mark. I see it as a buy the rumor, sell the news event, because if it doesn't get approved, it's going to go down. If it gets approved, it's going to go down. And the reason I say that is because these institutions are not going to be scooping up Bitcoin at yearly highs. Even 23 yearly highs. It doesn't make sense.
Disagree. I disagree with that. And the reason for that is very, very simple. The institutions are not in charge of when the Bitcoin gets bought up. They're in charge with an ETF. All they get is a mandate. We have brought in $1 billion. You go execute that $1 billion. It's not like a hedge fund trade where they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect time to execute. If anything, that's going to be done already with the BlackRock trust that we spoke about on the last live stream that I was on here with you. If they've got private clients, that's the vehicle they've used to secure that Bitcoin up till now. This is a retail product. So this doesn't work like that. Whether it's a sell the news event or not, I don't know. Everything that I've ever experienced tells me it's going to be a sell the news event, except the fact that Bitcoin actually has finality of supply. So you could have $500 million, $1 billion suddenly go into it on approval, and the price could just skyrocket. And if we start trading the next day and capital's moving in, we're looking at a very dangerous situation for anyone who's sitting on the sidelines here.
Yeah.
Well, that was. Go ahead, Kyle.
To my knowledge, and do correct me, BH, if I'm wrong on this, but they did have to change it to being. I don't know if the term is necessarily cash settled in the sense that they still do have to have the underlying asset.
They
but
always
it's going to be it's going to be cash in, cash out. You're not going to be able to basically take your Bitcoin out of the ETF.
You can't claim your Bitcoin.
But they will have to match it 1-to-1, which means the demand is real.
Yeah, so there's 3 steps to an ETF. If we consider the process of an ETF, right? There is the step 1 where the capital goes into the fund, the step 2 where they hold the ETF, hold the underlying asset, and then step 3 when cash needs to be redeemed. And so there's 2 different ways to do that. You can either do a cash create and a cash redeem, where you put cash in and they give you cash out when you want to sell it, or you can do an in-kind injection of the asset, where if you have Bitcoin, you can just send it to the fund and they'll put it in and give you the shares, or you do an in-kind extraction of capital, where if you ever sell that, they'll just send you back your Bitcoin. These are all cash creates. What that means is if anyone wants to put any capital in, they have to send cash. And then if the ETF, by the way, the only part of this that never changes is the middle part, which is holding the actual assets. And as Eric from Bloomberg clarified, these are, I can't remember which legal term comes under it, but it's a grantor trust, which basically means they can't lend out these assets. They can't do anything with the underlying assets that's in the fund. So that takes out a bunch of doom and gloom boomer bullshit that has been going around about these ETFs. These ETFs will hold these funds, and their job, by the way, is to own it as quick as possible and minimize the time between capital injection and assets under management. That's the whole point of an ETF, to minimize that gap.
Which makes sense. So basically, the price of Bitcoin itself doesn't affect them with the ETF because they make their money off the fees, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So whether Bitcoin,
which is another reason,
doesn't necessarily matter. So it doesn't matter. So that makes sense with what you're saying. With it doesn't matter of buying a dip.
Yeah, it does. That's irrelevant, right? The ETF is a facilitation product for the retail market or the institutional market to gain access to an investment vehicle. That's it. If all of their pre-buying, sneaky buying, whatever everyone's speculating on, will have happened months before.
For the people that are in the live chat that are talking about the fork, the fork language that's mentioned in BlackRock's proposal or their submission to the SEC, me and British HODL covered that in detail on our first interview. So I encourage you guys to check that out. I don't really want to rehash stuff that we don't need to rehash. And I do want to encourage people to take an opportunity to smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe here at Rice Crypto. And if you're not subscribed over at Crypto Zombie and British HODL, that would be greatly appreciated. So make sure you take an opportunity to go over there.
That is a scary thought if they did that, though, right, with the whole proof of stake thing. But I know you guys talked about that. I don't think that would fly, though. I mean, look at how many times we've already had forks, you know?
Yeah, I know. But when you're going to have companies like Van Eck doing what they're talking about doing with taking like 5% of their profits from the Bitcoin ETF and giving it to the Bitcoin developers, if you got enough of these institutions doing it, there's a lot of people that have a price. And, you know, we've already, to me, and this is another argument, but I've said this with British HODL, you know, I feel like Bitcoin is limited and throttled on purpose so that other entities can profit off some of these solutions that get around the small block idea of Bitcoin with the transactions. Because a Bitcoin in its nature right now, in my opinion, is not a threat to the US dollar or the fiat system, but a scaled Bitcoin is. And when you look at companies that have invested in like Blockstream, and then you got Luke Dash Jr., who is the Bitcoin developer who's in charge of the Bitcoin improvement proposals. He's the one calling for censorship on the Bitcoin blockchain by adding a spam filter to get rid of the ordinals. He's a co-founder of Blockstream. You can look at the companies that help fund Blockstream. Blockstream's also one of the companies that do donate money. I found something. This comes from Chain Code Labs, and this is the core contributors over the last 10 commits in the past year, the past 12 months. So you can see Brink, then you have Independent, Chain Code, Square. Now, it really surprised me how low that Blockstream was on this list, because to me, I think Blockstream has done a lot, but if you look here, all these entities are contributing. And the more, to me, in my opinion, the more these banking entities, TradFi entities that get involved, the easier it's going to be for them to try to, let's say, persuade Bitcoin Core to develop in a way that is conducive for what they want. And I know that's kind of going like putting a tinfoil hat on, but it's not out of the realm. BH, your thoughts, and then K-Dub, I'll get you to share.
I think it's all woo-woo conversation. BlackRock is a investment management firm. They want to make money for their investors so they can charge a fee for it. It's a very, very simple business model. And Bitcoin is the highest leverage asset BlackRock has ever discovered that's going to give them profits to their shareholders and ultimately themselves. So I don't think they would screw around with that. I can't see every person I've spoken to that's in the industry would just, unless now the next conversation is, okay, cool, I'm not speaking to high enough people. I definitely have not spoken to Larry Fink. So maybe Larry's having wet dreams about changing Bitcoin, but I can't see that happening. It's a very simple business model.
Well, we are on Rice's channel, so I know there's always that like conspiracy.
You can always put a tinfoil hat on here.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, I've thought about it. To be honest with you, I don't mean to offend anybody. I use Ethereum. I technically probably use Ethereum more than I use Bitcoin because I do a lot of stable coin transactions. I do have a media company, a business. We do get paid in crypto, and I do have to convert that into my bank account. So it is easy in that sense using Ethereum for dollar transactions. So I get why they both have their use cases. But for me, the reason that I really stick with Bitcoin is because in its current state, in its current form right now, Bitcoin for me is really, I feel that I actually own my Bitcoin. It can't really be confiscated, all that other stuff. But when you're talking about, Ethereum moving to proof of stake, now you think about, well, who are these largest validators? A lot of these people are not running their own nodes. So I want to stake Ethereum. Okay, I'm over on Kraken and Gemini and Coinbase or whatever. And now let's say the government, right, or some entity comes in and goes, hey, well, you guys are all the largest holders of Ethereum. You have the most influence, right? It is proof of stake. So if you want to keep offering these types of products and services in our country, we want you to do this. We want you to blacklist this. We want you to add this into a smart you know what I mean? And that to me kind of took the beauty out of it. Once it switched from proof of work to proof of stake, then I wasn't as interested. And the same thing for me would really happen to Bitcoin. If they did go through with that and move it into a proof of stake thing, I don't know. I don't know where I'd go actually at this point, because Bitcoin sort of is that safe haven for me. But yeah, it's just not. And another thing too, all this building on it, the ordinals and all this other stuff, it's great. Have fun, clog up the network with JPEGs or whatever you want to do. But for me, Bitcoin does one thing, and it does one thing very well. And that's keeping a clean ledger that's settled, every 10 minutes. It doesn't really need to do more than what it does. It does what it does just fine. So
the ordinals is kind of a way, in my opinion, of forcing Core to have to scale Bitcoin. Because it's coming down to scale Bitcoin or censor Bitcoin, the censorship resistant chain. Like what you call censorship resistant. Are you going to add censorship to it, or are you going to scale it? Because it's one of the two. You're going to have to do that. That's what I came to that conclusion at Bitcoin 23 this year. I had just done an interview with Stamped creator Mike in Space, who does the SRC20s, which they save in a UTXO. They can't be filtered out. Whereas the ordinals are something to do with Taproot and Schnorr signatures, and there could be a simple spam filter to eliminate them. Sorry, BH, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think Bitcoin does the one thing, as Crypto Zombie said. I think it does the one thing that it's supposed to do. The one problem that humanity has faced for 230 years of financial subjugation under this fiat system, and it does that extremely well. By the way, I'm a capitalist. I think everyone has the right to make and lose money, but I also have the right to tell you you're stupid while you're doing it. So I think that if anyone wants to build on top of Bitcoin, I think that's great. I think, if anyone, if everyone wants to come and, build Lightning, build all these other solutions on top of Bitcoin, I think that's great. But the base layer has to be fixed. And that's why I'm focused on Bitcoin and nothing else. I think, for the moment, there are certain solutions for certain problems, like moving stable coins and this, that, and the other that Ethereum has. But I wouldn't be surprised, based on the ETH BTC chart, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ethereum disappear in this next cycle. That's a big, bold claim for your crypto audience. But I think that would be a fantastic development. Just like Gary Gensler was the MVP for Bitcoin in this last cycle, got rid of your two idols, CZ and Sam Bankman-Fried. If he manages to get rid of Ethereum in this next cycle, that would be absolutely fantastic. We can all celebrate again on another live stream.
There's a lot of vested interest in Ethereum, though. You know, that's the thing. Like,
there is.
Like the Bitcoin core, like you said, okay, great. Now they're getting 5%. Cool. Maybe they're going to get persuaded. But I mean, when you think about the amount of developers, VCs, projects, and we don't have to go into
Enterprise Alliance. That's
don't have to go
conglomerate. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm not even going into the, like, it's a scam. I'm not even going into that, you know, like these projects, these tokens. It's not that. It's just the amount of vested interest. But again, it comes down to greed, you know, and I've heard people, you know, complain that about Bitcoin because it doesn't offer a dividend, but neither does gold. You know what I mean? If you're holding a gold bar, it's not like you open the door and there's little pieces, little shillings on the ground the next day. Like, I mean, so it's not that new of a concept as far as a store of value is concerned, regardless of whether or not that was the initial, you know, peer-to-peer cash reason. Well, that's what it's become. Obviously,
Right.
Technology evolves. You know, I'm sure the original, you know, I can't even think off the top of my head, but how many people have invented things by accident, right? Like penicillin was found accidentally. You know what I mean? Like, so obviously Bitcoin may have started out one way, but clearly we've adopted it in a slightly different way. You know, right now it doesn't make sense to spend your Bitcoin, you know, and
No.
I had this argument a while ago with Ken Bozak, and, you know, you remember, you know, Ken, and he was,
bro.
you know, he was like, well, that's the problem, Zombie, is it's people like you who just want to hodl it. I mean, I'm not like, he didn't say it like that, but he was like, you know, you don't want to use it. You don't want to spend it. And I was like, dude, Gersham's law, look it up. If I go to a grocery store and I have $100 bill or $100 worth of Bitcoin, I'm not going to give the grocer my Bitcoin when I know that dollar is going to be worth less tomorrow. I want to get rid of that. You know what I mean? So it's not like.
And I thought about that, man. Like, why did Satoshi create what he or they or she wanted to be peer-to-peer cash, but made it the most scarcest asset at the same time? That just didn't make sense. So, like, why would you? Because with understanding Gresham's law, it just doesn't make sense. And you would think that this would have been forwardly thought out, but yeah, I mean, I get why people hodl. I get the argument of why people should use it as a peer-to-peer cash, but I get the argument because I would prefer to use something like Dogecoin as my everyday spending, because there's always going to be more Doge. It's an inflationary. I mean,
if you're moving, you know, if you're moving like a few $1 million, then I'm going to use Bitcoin because it's the most secure network on planet Earth. And I know it's going to get there. I know there's not going to be any hiccups. You know what I mean? But yeah, I get your point. You know, like I said, smaller transactions. Yeah, I do use USDT. I mean, I don't know. They tried the Omni network that, you know, that kind of didn't really work. They have Liquid and all this other stuff, but you know, man, it's what is Bitcoin? 15 years old. I mean, it's not even old enough to
15
really
years for
legally drive a car. You know, how I don't even know what is the driving permit age.
Most of it's 16, I think.
Yeah, so Bitcoin's not even old enough to drive. Like, you know what I mean? It's very young, man.
I think if you're gonna do, you know, transactions, I think the US dollar rails are perfect for that right now, right? Like, you might not want to do overseas transactions or whatever because it takes a couple days and this, that, and the other. But personally, I think the best future is exactly what Michael Saylor has laid out, which is you use Bitcoin as your savings tool, you use your USD as your transaction tool. And I think that works quite well. I'm not part of the Bitcoin camp that thinks we're ever going to price iPhones in Satoshis. I don't think that's going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen in my lifetime. So I don't worry about that. I think Bitcoin is a base layer technology, and that's what it should be used as. It's just amazing that now every single person in the world can have access to the base layer, which you can't do in the current system.
Okay, now I got a question for both of you. I want to ask Zombie first, and I know the answer for British, but I will ask it in a different way. Zombie, is the Bitcoin Spot ETF good or bad for Bitcoin?
That depends on really like what it is that your end goal is. You know what I mean? As you know, you'll hear the hardcore libertarians say it's terrible because it takes away the ethos of what Satoshi wanted for Bitcoin. But for me personally, I do self-custody. I hope that doesn't become an illegal thing in the US because I will fight that, by the way. I will be the guy in court fighting that. I believe that you have a right to self-custody. I know I will. That's like one thing
I'll be there with you.
I don't care. Like I will actually stand up for that. But I think it's a good thing, especially if, you know, let's be honest, number go up. You know, I was buying a car the other day, a truck actually, and I was talking to this guy, and it was when Bitcoin was around 33,000, and I was trying to explain it to him because he asked me what I do for a living. You know, it's hard to explain, and he ended up calling me back. I got the truck. He called me back a couple weeks later. He was like, "Oh, we overcharged you $600, whatever. We got to send it back to you." I said, "Hey, man, did you check out Bitcoin? It's at the time it was 33 and then it was 44." And he was like, "You know, I just had a look at it, but I just don't get it. I don't understand it. It's too complicated. I don't trust Coinbase. I don't know what that is." And, you know, and I'm realizing that we live in this kind of like echo chamber. I don't think that the ETF is for guys like us. For me, I'm not going to put my Bitcoin in an ETF. I'm just not going to do that. That's not for me. But there are so many people that are not trustworthy of, you know, these things. Now, maybe over time that'll happen. They'll you know, educate themselves, whatever. But I think that it's good for Bitcoin. I think it's good because it's going to allow those people to get the exposure who normally, number one, wouldn't even technically be allowed to, you know, as far as offering it as services or advising it to their clients. And then number two, those who are just too scared, like, not to keep talking, but I wanted to go back to Michael Saylor. He said something the other day, and I mentioned it in my video. He called it the 15-second phone call, right? And that's the thing that a lot of us don't understand. Yeah, we know how to go and buy and self-custody and use these exchanges, but the average person is used to just picking up their phone, right? And going, "Hey, Bob, you know, yeah, so I heard you guys, you're offering Bitcoin now. Yeah, cool. What are you suggesting? 1% to start? Okay, you know what? I'm feeling risky. You know, I'm getting a little old. Let's do 2%. All right, thanks, Bob. Click. I mean, that's how easy it's going to be now. You know, and that barrier to entry is going to get completely decimated. I mean, it's going to be so easy for these average people to get involved. And it's also another thing is like the mob mentality. Like, you ever see the memes where it's like, you know, they're both waiting online, you know, and the one line's really long, like Bitcoin, everyone wants to buy at 60, but it's true. Everyone was kind of waiting for that Paul Tudor Jones, waiting for the Michael Saylor, then the El Salvadors. You know, it's like you're hesitant to take that first step, but once you start seeing like, oh, you know, Bill, he just bought some and he's a good friend of mine. I trust him. He's good with finances. So, you know what, if Bill did it, I'm going to do it, you know? And it's kind of, you've opened the floodgates to that. And I think it's going to get back to your point about the buy the rumor, sell the news thing. I don't think it's going to be a sell the news event, but there is some technical resistance literally at around 48,000. So there's a possibility that we kind of like pump into it and then have maybe that healthy 20%, 30% retracement. I don't really know. I look at, you know, charts a lot, but long-term, it's only going to be good. So, you know, as long as the US doesn't do something stupid, like straight up ban self-custody, you know, if it turns into, that's the secret, like the anti crypto army, Elizabeth Warren. Okay, here you go. Here's the big ETF, guys. But the catch is now all your Bitcoin's got to go in there. If that's the case, then it's going to be terrible for Bitcoin. But as it stands now, I think it's going to be nothing but positive for it.
So British HODL, I know that you think it's good. Why do you think it's good?
Again, to summarize, I don't even know why I'm here. Crypto Zombie has turned from the biggest shitcoiner into the biggest Bitcoin maxi I've heard in the space.
He's borderline.
It took me 6 years. It took me 6 years, but I learned.
This is fantastic. So he just gave you the perfect answer. It's the 15-second phone call, right? It is, hey, I heard about Bitcoin. It did 70% last year. Get me a 3% allocation. See you later. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to worry about my wallet. I don't need to worry about where it's being stored. I don't need to worry about anything. All I got to do is make a phone call to Fidelity, make a phone call to Charles Schwab, make a phone call to whoever, and I get an allocation instantly, right? That is really why I think the ETF is good. I also think it's good because it starts building the lending markets for Bitcoin, which a lot of people are not really thinking about yet. An ETF is going to be a lot easier to lend against. If I've got an SPY, which is an S&P 500 index fund, if I've got an SPY position, I can lend against that instantly, right, through my broker account. That's going to now start opening up people lending against Bitcoin. Instead of you going and buying, you know, $100 million worth of commercial real estate in order to generate liquidity against it, I can now just go buy $100 million of Bitcoin. It's going to go up 70% a year, and an institution can lend against it at basically, Fed rates, because everything's secure. I know where the asset is. I don't need to worry about it. So the lending markets are going to start developing. There's a lot of these I worry mainly about these Bitcoin only companies that are trying to build out these financial systems for people to lend against their Bitcoin, because they're charging 14% to lend against it. ETF's going to come back and go, we'll lend you money at 3.5%, 4% based on wherever the Fed funds rates are. And that's their business model dead, right? So it's interesting. You know, right now I use, I don't know whether you guys have heard of a company called Casa, right? Casa basically does cold storage and helps you do multi-sig. So I use them, and I have my multi-sig stuff in 3 different countries. But they manage it because I feel comfortable in being able. I'm not a technical guy. I get to pick up the phone and speak to someone, right? Well, my bill for Casa is $2,100 a year. Now, if you've got less than $1 million of Bitcoin, it's going to be cheaper for you to buy through the ETF than worry anything about your multi-sig. And the people that the ETF is targeted towards are the same target market that Casa is going for. The people that aren't really technical but have assets that want to get in there. So yeah, that's what it is. The 15-second phone call to summarize. That's why I think it's good. And overall, it starts building out the lending markets, which we've not seen yet. We've not factored in the idea that somebody wants to generate liquidity against their existing assets. They should actually buy Bitcoin to do that rather than buying stocks, bonds, or real estate. That's the next thing that will evolve over the next 2 cycles. Mark my words.
Okay, now the reason I asked both of you that was to lead into this clip that I was telling you before we started that I wanted to share with you. It's been something that's been weighing on me. Are you both familiar with Whitney Webb?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
She's a researcher. She's done some books. She spoke at the Bitcoin 23 conference, but she was just recently
I might know her. Yeah.
She was just recently on Peter McCormick's What Bitcoin Did. And this is like 2 minutes from that conversation I want to share, and then I want to get your guys' thoughts. So I want to play that 2-minute clip real quick.
Yeah, in my world, a lot of people think that Bitcoin is the resistance. You take control of the money, you take the power away from them. Do you give any credence to that? I mean, how down the Bitcoin rabbit hole are you?
Well, I definitely think Bitcoin has the potential to be a tool for financial freedom, but I think there's major efforts well underway to co-opt that to serve the same agenda, right? And so I think people in the Bitcoin space that want it to be a tool for financial freedom need to get wise to those efforts to co-opt and resist, because it's either a tool of financial freedom or it's not. You know what I mean? And so
yeah.
If you cede enough territory and let them completely dollarize Bitcoin and turn it into a tool of U.S. empire to keep the dollar afloat and keep dollar hegemony going forever and ever and ever, are saying it's a flaw in Bitcoin that you can't put dollars easily on Bitcoin and all of this. I mean, no, the whole point supposedly, right, of creating Bitcoin was to give Wall Street banks the middle finger and create something that had immutable sound monetary policy. Correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you allow them to co-opt it so it's not those things anymore, what are you left with?
The same old world.
Is it a tool of financial freedom, or is it just the promise of Bitcoin been hollowed out and replaced with Wall Street garbage?
Is that what you think the issue there, like ETFs? Are you alluding to the ETFs?
There's all sorts of things that are happening in Bitcoin right now that could be under that umbrella. But when you start to have people like BlackRock being like, you know what, we actually like Bitcoin now, that's a sign to pay attention. You know what I mean?
Bitcoin is hope.
So I think people need to, in the Bitcoin space, need to be very aware that there is a fight being had right now about the future of Bitcoin. And you have to decide which side you're on. Are you going to fight for Bitcoin to be a tool of financial freedom, or are you going to allow it to be co-opted by the powers that be that it was supposedly designed to resist them and, be something they can't control? Are you going to give them control of it? I mean, the answer should be no to any Bitcoiner worth respecting.
Okay, now before you guys say something, I want to say we're going to keep this thing under an hour, so we got about less than 20 minutes left in live stream. This is going to be our main final topic that we're going to talk about. Peter's a good friend of mine. I want to get him on the show to kind of get his thoughts. And Whitney's made her way around. She's gone on Natalie Brunell's Coin Stories, talked about something very similar. Her research is impeccable. It is impeccable. She impresses me a great deal. And she's not even a Bitcoiner. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. British HODL, your thoughts on that clip?
Yeah, I watched the entire podcast because when people started sharing it, I was like, let me see what this is about. You know, I think again, I think Whitney's a great journalist, but based on her thoughts and feelings, I would like confirmation that she has actually sold all of her Bitcoin as a result of this, and I don't think she's willing to provide that. Right? If she is, I'd be extremely happy because then she can actually say that she's doing the freedom fighting rather than just freedom complaining. Right? At this point, Bitcoin is a monetary network, and a monetary network works by you. If you put money into a monetary network, you own a piece of that monetary network. Doesn't mean you can actually control it. That's the point of it. So I think she's basically stoking the fears that are going on in people's minds, especially in the minds of, you know, the audiences that wear tinfoil hats and what I like to call doom and gloom boomers and the happy hippies, right? I think that she, while she has a point, I think that the point is overridden by just the amount of doom and gloom boomering going on with everything she's saying. And again, like I said, I would love to see a confirmation that she has actually sold all of her Bitcoin and bought whichever other crypto she believes is, you know, freedom fighting and all that stuff. I don't think BlackRock coming into this, you know, does an asset like Bitcoin, do you have to look at it and go, hey, BlackRock's coming into this? Sure, but you have to understand what it is. It's a monetary network, and everyone, no matter how much money you have, should be allowed to access the monetary network. And that's what's going on here. And now all these people are worried about what they're going to do with it. It's a monetary network with fixed rules. So am I worried about anything Whitney said? No, but do I like the reporting that she does on the pervs of the world? Yeah, I think she's a great journalist. But am I going to take everything she's saying seriously about Bitcoin? No, because she's not saying anything serious about Bitcoin. All she said is, you got to think about it. Well, yeah, I thought about it. So what is there serious to take from anything she said? The only time I'll take her seriously is if she tells me she's got a 0 Bitcoin position and she's taken all of that funds and put it into something else that she believes is privacy orientated, and then I'll laugh at her for doing that.
Zombie, what do you think about what she had to say?
Yeah, I mean, I like what HODL said. That made a lot of sense. I think it's inevitable. You know what I mean? Even any idea that starts out as something like she said, giving the middle finger. I mean, the automobile was giving middle finger to the horse and buggy, right? Netflix was giving the middle finger to Blockbuster, Uber to the taxis. You know what I mean?
but those things weren't sucking out the lifeblood of the people. Whereas our financial system based on debt and usury does exactly that. So it's a big difference putting your middle finger up to the banks versus putting your finger up to an opposing industry or something that you're trying to make obsolete with creative destruction.
But the thing is it's almost like that. If you can't beat them, join them type of mentality. Maybe that's what I was trying to get at. It doesn't matter if they adopt it, if there's an ETF, if we start putting it on the balance sheet, if we start using it as a basket or adding it to T-bond bills, whatever. I think at the end of the day, the network itself, the underlying actual Bitcoin protocol itself, you always have that option to use it. I mean, even if you were to outlaw it, let's say in the US, and say you can't use Bitcoin, or, you know, you still have the option to take that and go somewhere else with it. I mean, really, realistically, where is your Bitcoin even held anyway? You know, I mean, it might be on a cold storage device, but cold storage is only a key, right? Everything's on the blockchain anyway. So I'm a little confused about what she's saying. Is she assuming that she's saying they're going to do something nefarious, like they're going to come in and pay off all these core devs and change it to have blacklisted and whitelisted wallets? And what is she scared about? I don't really understand 100%.
I think she makes her money from making other people scared about whatever she wants other people to be scared about. So, you know, that's what's going on. Certainly, I would definitely trust if I'm an investor, right, which I am, I'm definitely trusting the Bitcoin developers and the Bitcoin node runners to stand up against, you know, the amount of censorship and everything else that everyone's worried about versus the unicorn pajama wearing lunatic called Vitalik Buterin. I'm definitely trusting Bitcoin developers to do that rather than a guy dancing around in a fucking unicorn outfit.
Yeah, man,
you don't sound like you don't sound like an Ethereum fan. You don't sound like a fan of Vitalik Buterin. You sound like a Bitcoin maxi British HODL.
What a shock!
What a shock!
Yeah, I mean, look, if this was me halfway through the journey, maybe I would have some of these same concerns. I don't have those concerns. I really believe that, like I said, it was inevitable, and Bitcoin was always headed down this path. It was always going to become what it is becoming. So I just think you have to accept that. And like he said, if you have a problem with that, go hold Monero. You know what I mean? If you think that's more, you have more freedoms. I don't know what to tell you, but for me, I've done a lot of research into this, a lot of research into monetary policy and understanding, basically all the secret taxes, inflation, and all that. And I have not come to any conclusion in probably 8 years of solid diving that would persuade me in any way to think that Bitcoin doesn't check off all those boxes. It is the best form of money without going down the list. So, like I said, is it a shocker that it's being adopted? No, I think it was an inevitability, and yeah, there's speculation, but Satoshi said himself, you can go back and check his, when he used to post on those forums, he said that price was going to be a big driver. He knew that people would see the price go up and that would get them interested. And then once they got some skin in the game, that's when the education comes in. And when the education comes in, then I think it will snowball even more. And yeah, there's so many conspiracies you can go over, but I don't think it's bad for Bitcoin. And I've run out of things to say.
You still wouldn't own a Bitcoin ETF though.
No, just because of who I am. But if you want to own a Bitcoin ETF, that's fine.
Right, you're not holding it against other people.
You're gaining exposure. But the only thing that I don't like, and and I'm not like, I don't do anything illegal. Like I actually pay too many taxes. Let me tell you that. I actually overpay because I know everything is traceable. So I'm not playing any games. But at the end of the day, I've seen what they've done to like my father's bank account. He's a landscaper. He had a few hard times. I've seen the IRS come in. I've seen them freeze his bank account, divert funds on his behalf, really without him really having any consent. And that to me just doesn't fly because I can't find anything else in this world that I actually own. Like, you think you own your house? No, they just let you keep your shirt and pants there. Trust me, you don't own that. They want it. They
right.
Take
Try
it.
not to pay your property taxes.
Right. Exactly. They'll take you could have your house paid off. They could take that. They could theoretically take 3 feet of, I don't know the laws, but in New York where I used to, they could just keep, building into your lawn until the highway goes right up to your front door, and, they can put you in jail. They can take your liberties. They can take your freedoms away, but they can't take your Bitcoin. And not to be all like libertarian woo woo, but for me, that has solidified the only thing on planet Earth that is actually truly mine. Like, not even my life is my own. They can take that from me, And for that reason, I stick with Bitcoin and I stay with Bitcoin because I just haven't found anything else that is actually something that you really truly own. I guess maybe that's a little too philosophical, but for me, it's like there's no argument against it. And
right.
If you're not understanding it, well, then good luck to you. Have fun making your freaking 5% annually, whatever the hell you're doing. You put in a CD for 5%, inflation's at 3%, you're coming back in 5 years. Did you even?
Well, I mean, I think this has been a great conversation. I mean, we're not always going to see eye to eye on things. But I
just want to make one point. When Kyle
I'm not
says
done. I was going to give you a chance.
No, but just to finish off what he said regarding the fact that he wouldn't use a Bitcoin ETF, that's today, right? In 5 years, when he wants to borrow against his Bitcoin and he can pay a 4% interest rate using the ETF because it will have converted to an in-kind product by then, and then or they go, you're going to pay 14% to borrow through some Bitcoin only company. I guarantee you, Kyle's going to call his accountant up and say, hey, transfer that Bitcoin into that ETF and borrow against it at 4%.
Can I make a confession? I will make a confession. I have actually borrowed against my Bitcoin. So I have also kind of used something like this. There's the OTC company that basically they only care about the percentage. They don't care about the Bitcoin. So, I was getting tired because, I pretty much all crypto. I'm probably way too exposed to crypto, and I probably shouldn't even admit that. I'm overexposed according to the majority of the world. But, for me, I pay my bills, I pay my taxes in crypto. So I finally got to the point where I was like, why am I selling my Bitcoin? I'm selling my Bitcoin at $6,000, and then I come back in a couple months and it's going up to 15, and it's just because I got to pay my taxes on the, So I lent some out for, I think it was 6.5%. So yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see using it for that. I mean, I'm not totally against decentralized.
But you did it without an ETF. You didn't need the ETF to do it.
Right, but it was but it was a little more complicated for the average
But what if he had the ETF option, and the ETF option at that time? I mean, I'm assuming this was like what, 2020-ish, 2021, something like that.
No, it was last year actually. It was mid last year. Yeah, I had a lot of. I'm not gonna go into it on the channel.
Yeah, you don't have to get into it.
But let's just say you paid 6%, right, to borrow against it, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if the ETF option was 1.5%.
Yeah, well, I'd take that.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not
Absolutely.
that.
I mean, yeah.
And trust me, it wasn't a small
move,
amount either. It was a large amount. I'm not gonna say how much, but it wasn't a small amount. I'll say that. So yeah, it does add up over time. But what are you gonna do? I mean, like I said, it's inevitable. So you can fight it, but that would be stupid. And a lot of people that have been sidelined saying that this is, first of all, 150%. This is not a bull trap. Okay, people saying this is a bull trap, 150% bull trap. So and I'm seeing these analysts like proudly like adding to my short position. I mean, I don't even want to say the guy. I think you know who he is, but he's been
Who is he?
shorting.
Who is it? I don't watch these
our buddy Gareth, who's been shorting since 35.
What's his full name? What's his full
name?
Yeah,
even Blood called out Gareth for the shorting move.
Bro, but like, I'm just saying, like, and I'm not trying to be rude here, but you're claiming to be this like analyst and whatever, and you have people that follow, you have subscriptions, people actually pay for your calls, and you're shorting from 35 up to 47, and you're like proudly bragging about how you're adding to your short. That's the most illogical trade I've ever heard of. Why would you be adding to your short from 35 to 47 rather than just either sitting in spot or I don't know. I feel really bad for people. Like there's a lot of people that I know that like are crying right now because these gurus were telling them it was going to 10.
People shouldn't be following people straight out right. I mean, you should be looking at a lot of different sources and then taking that information and trying to make an educated decision on your own instead of just like literally just following everything somebody says.
The problem is,
because
all of these,
if that's what you're going to do, then you can't blame somebody because you literally just followed somebody. That's all you did.
Yeah.
The problem with this, from my perspective, as an observer of the industry that you guys come from, is that it works in shit coins, right? Because the market caps are so small that if you just get 1,000 people on YouTube to start shorting something, you can move the market. Whoever these morons are now trying to dictate the direction of Bitcoin don't understand that they're about to unlock billions of dollars on a daily basis coming in to just net long purchase Bitcoin. So we got to worry about the leverage shorts being able to keep up with it, let alone whatever your YouTube audience is or whoever this person is, whatever their YouTube audience can drive as well. So this is a different asset. I said this, like, I don't think Bitcoin has probably had a single day where there's been $1 billion of net long purchasing. Not a single day where there's been a full $1 billion of net long purchasing going on. And BlackRock, with rumors that are coming out right now, they've already lined up $2 billion just to go into their fund, not including Fidelity, not including all these other guys, not including the capital unlock that's going to happen, not including Standard Chartered coming out and saying $50 to $100 billion net long inflows over the first year. This is a different animal now. So I wish them all the best. Keep shorting it because it'd be fun to take the piss out of it.
Maybe he closed. I don't know. Maybe he closed out. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no clue.
But the one again, like, I don't, me, I'm probably British HODL. He clearly, like, you just tell it straight. I'm a little more reserved. I don't really like confrontation. Whatever you want to do, you want to short it, you want to do this, whatever. I just feel bad for people who follow that. But, my content used to be a lot more TA because really there wasn't much going on in 2019, 2020. It was just a lot of technicals. And I've actually really not done a lot of TA lately. And the reason is because with what's about to happen, this is not something that I can show you on a chart. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I mean, yeah, I can show you like the technical resistances. Like literally we're coming up one right now, right around 48,800-ish. There's with we got the 0.618 fib, which Bitcoin tends to pull back from. So if you were to ask me historically, yeah, I would say once Bitcoin gets to 49.50, we're probably overheated. We're probably going to pull back from a technical perspective. But on the flip side, now you have this brand new product that's never existed in the past 15 years with this entirely brand new audience that's never had an opportunity to get any access, any piece of the pie. And that is not something that I can quantify or show you on a chart. So I've been trying to explain to people, this thing can move a lot faster and a lot higher than you think it can. You know what I mean? And it's,
I mean, we've
think
seen it, dude. We've seen it. I mean,
we've seen it without
I've been
them.
involved in 2017. Yeah, I've seen 20%, 30% moves in a day.
Yeah,
in 10 minutes.
Do you remember the president? Remember that they called it the president she pump? You remember that thing? It was like 45% in 48
I remember the
hours.
dip when Jamie Dimon was talking about wanting to fire any of his employees that are trading or owning Bitcoin while they were scooping it up at the same time. I remember that dip.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon's gonna ban it, but now they're like, what are they? The act, I don't forget what they're called.
I mean, you saw him. He talked shit recently. He talked shit recently in front of Congress with Elizabeth Warren, another scripted event, and then JP Morgan gets named as one of the people in the BlackRock ETF.
Yeah, that was, I forget the title, what that's called, but that's what I was referring
authorized
to.
Participant.
Authorized participant.
Yeah, but basically, there's two sides to a market, right? There's the long side and the short side. BlackRock has clearly decided that they're going to take the long side of the market. So multi-billions of dollars of opportunity shows up on the short side of the market. And that's where JP Morgan has decided to situate itself, on the short side of the market. So they'll profit from attracting people who want to short the Bitcoin market while BlackRock's taking the other side. And that's just how this works. Like, it just is what it is. And same thing with this whole self-custody banning thing. Like, this is from Elizabeth Warren. I just want somebody to go look at her entire history.
Her track record. Look at her track record of stuff getting passed.
It's not going to fly.
Pass a bill. So this ain't going to happen. But this is all just drama. So
the same. Listen, another thing too. Not to cut you off, but and I know we're getting. But this is what I was also saying. I know you're from the UK, right? That's where you're from. I'm assuming because the accent. I'm guessing. British HODL, I'm assuming. So, out here in the US, it sucks because it's hard to get things kind of done because we have so many agencies. Like, we have 2 financial agencies alone. Like, we have the SEC and the CFTC. Most other countries only have really 1 agency for the most part, but we also have 50 states. And the same way that I was trying to explain how federally marijuana is illegal in the United States, federally. But I could smoke it on my front porch, wave to the cop in New York, no problem, because in New York, it's, you know what I'm saying? So I actually had to leave New York, unfortunately, because they're not crypto friendly. They wouldn't let me do my business there. That's for another story. They basically sent me an 86-page letter saying, you're not a criminal, you've done nothing wrong, but you just can't do business here. I said, okay. So I moved to Florida. Now I'm having to meet Ron DeSantis, literally next month, the anti-CBDC, first ever state to pass the law.
You had to fill me in on that, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. The mayor, Suarez, he got paid in Bitcoin. They have the crypto Bitcoin council committee out here. They're meeting in the Capitol on the 30th. They invited me. So it's not going to fly. And we can let these. Somebody said something really cruel, but all these dinosaurs in Congress, all these, they're going to die. I hate to say it. Somebody else said that, but they were like, they're
well,
gonna
that's
die.
what happens eventually.
And eventually, the forward thinkers, the millennials, the Gen Zs, whatever you want to call them, or just those that are able to get on board and understand the trend. It's like I said, it's inevitable. It's moving in that direction anyway. So you can fight it all you want. You could stand on your high horse. You could say that they're taking the freedom away by creating the ETF, whatever you want to say. But that is the inevitability of it. And you've had 15 years to front run them, and now it's here. Now it's here. It's coming to fruition. So you're not going to stop it. So yeah, I don't really have like a final point to make on that, because you guys know me, I could just ramble. That's most of my videos are just me rambling, literally. But
you're one of the few content creators that I try to watch on a regular basis. I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to watch, but I make time for certain channels because of the value I get from the channel. So I appreciate what you do, man. And I'm going to have a link down below for your YouTube channel, and also have a link for your X account so people can follow you if they're not already following you or subscribe to your account. You got anything you want to add, man, before we wrap things up? Any final thoughts? Yeah,
I just rambled on forever.
I just want to make sure. I didn't want to be rude and just not give you an opportunity.
I want to hear from the man himself, because honestly, I don't even know your name, man, British HODL. But
I don't either.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. But
he's a mystery man, Mr. Peanut.
I will tell you, the ETF was something that was I was always interested in, but it was his videos. It was your videos, dude, that made me want to go farther and learn more about it. It really was, because I kind of was just like, another ETP, meh. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure it's going to like people. And it was really watching your content that, like, I always knew it was going to be good. I always knew it was going to be net positive, but when I heard you talk about it, that was sort of where that fire ignited again. And I have to be honest with you, I almost got a little complacent. You know, like I used to be real excited. I used to tell everyone. And then, you know, now I go out and then people would ask me about Bitcoin. I'm just like, whatever. It is what it is.
What do you
I'm
think?
tired,
You had to guess his
explaining
name.
it.
If you had to guess his name, what does British HODL look like?
Paul.
He looks like a Paul.
I don't know.
I'm trying to think.
Is it Charles? Is it like a
No,
really
I changed my
Maxwell? We can call him Maxwell for Maxi.
No, I changed my name to British HODL, so it's actually
officially, like legally. So now that is his first name is British, his last name is HODL. So respect
I love it. So
I'm Crypto Zombie. Yeah.
I'm going to have a link for the British HODL YouTube channel as well as the British HODL X account, so you guys can make sure you're following and subscribed if you're not already. Any final thoughts, Mr. BH?
Yeah, listen, firstly, Zombie, thanks for those comments. I truly appreciate them, and thanks for sharing the video on your channel. And that really set my channel on fire, so I truly appreciate that. Yeah, my final thoughts are this. This is not something that's come out of BlackRock's thought process in the last 6 months. The fact that they filed for an ETF last year means that they were thinking about this for years. And how you know that is because when I was watching CNBC in 2020, the CIO of BlackRock was on there saying, we maybe think that Bitcoin could be the next gold, right? And then from that point, we saw 17 days worth of outflows from the gold ETF after the CIO of BlackRock said that. And then obviously a study was leaked, that an internal study from BlackRock was leaked showing that they were actually studying what the perfect allocation to Bitcoin was in their portfolios. None of this has been, just off the cuff for BlackRock. This is a planned, well-executed, well-oiled machine by the best and biggest asset manager in the entire world. So that alone should tell you that if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're trading your shit coins, you're holding your real estate, you're holding your stocks, whatever, it's time to take this seriously. And now I've been saying this since last year. As soon as BlackRock basically filed, I was like, this is done, because BlackRock has they filed for 577 ETF applications. They've had 576 approved, and the one they had denied, the entire industry was denied forever.
What is the actual mathematical statistic of that, though? It's not 99%. It's got to be some, maybe rounded up or rounded down. But do you know the actual?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's close enough to 99.
Right. Yeah, I'm just being getting nuanced here.
So
anyways,
basically, my thought process is this. This is happening, and all of these doom and gloom boomers, $10 a month DCA gang members, the $1,000 net worthers, and the happy hippies that want to come out here and talk shit. I want evidence that they sold their Bitcoin before they start talking shit about the Bitcoin ETF. And they're not going to do that, right? They don't have the balls to do that. So you got to ignore all of those gang members and realize that if you want to protect the value that you have worked for, and the reason why I started my YouTube channel was because of my parents. The fact that they've spent 35 years building a property portfolio for their 2 sons, and come to realize that 35 years later, because of the amount of pounds printed, the properties should have been worth 50% more than they actually are worth in order to maintain the value of the devaluing that's happened. That's awful, right? So that's what I started my YouTube channel for. And I think people should really realize and wake up that Bitcoin is the scarcest, hardest asset that humanity has ever created. And you probably should have an allocation to it if the biggest and best asset manager in the world is now pushing it, and actively the CEO is on national television advertising it. I think that's, if you miss it at this point and you've heard all of this, you are an ignorant little piece of shit. It's as simple as that. You deserve everything that comes to you, because you cannot be this ignorant and this arrogant. It's just as simple as that. So that's my final message. Hopefully the ETF is going to get approved tomorrow. Based on everything that's been happening, this is what is lined up. And I just want to say thanks to both of you guys for sharing me to your audiences. I appreciate it a lot.
Likewise, man. I appreciate both of you. I appreciate your time, because time is our most valuable asset. So I'm going to wrap this thing up solo. I appreciate both you guys taking the time to join me, and I'll be in touch with both of you. Good luck on your trip, Zombie.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure being on with you guys. Thank you again for everything.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Ciao,
thanks
guys.
again, British HODL. You take care, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I appreciate everybody for taking an opportunity to join me on today's live stream. Again, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Take an opportunity to subscribe here at Rice Crypto. And I also have another YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, which is called Rice Against the Grain. You can find all of my links and watch both of my channels at my website, ricetvx.com. There you can also sign up for my mailing list, and I would definitely encourage you to do so. Now, I have a clip that I wanted to play to wrap things up. And before I phase out of here, before I wrap up today, I want to make sure you guys take an opportunity to smash that like button, because it's supposed to help wake up the algorithm so people can find videos like these. So if you haven't hit that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. And before we get out of here, once again, I've got a clip I'm going to share. It's about a minute. Let me see exactly how long it is, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. And as always, it's like less than a minute. So as always, I encourage you to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch that you want to see in the matrix. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And until next time, practice change. And this is another clip coming from the What Bitcoin Did podcast with Whitney Webb. Less than a minute long. Check out the entire podcast. I will have it linked in the comment section.
Because the Wall Street guys think they can buy off all the Bitcoiners by being like, look, you have all this money, join us. I mean, that's like Sith Empire shit. Like, don't fall for it, you know?
Is that just the new the Bitcoin elites, just the new elites?
Well, I think they hope to buy people off that way in the Bitcoin space, because they want to try and get Bitcoiners on their side. And, you know, I think there are probably people who are very influential in the Bitcoin space who are being used to herd people toward that. Influential voices. And ideally, the voices in the Bitcoin community with integrity will start talking about these issues sooner rather than later.
And that's Rice Crypto.